What you know about Stoicism is a fragment, not a summary, not a simplified version, a fragment of something that was once vastly larger. The Stoics wrote for 5 centuries, hundreds of philosophers, thousands of texts, entire schools of thought that built on each other across generations. Almost none of it survived. What reached us, Marcus Aurelius, Seneca, Epictetus, represents maybe 5% of what was actually written. And the question nobody asks is a simple one. What was in the other 95%? Because the texts that survived did not survive by accident. They survived because specific people, in specific moments in history, decided they were worth keeping, which means someone also decided the rest was not. That decision changed everything you think you know about what the Stoics actually believed. Stoicism was founded around 300 BC by a man named Zeno of Citium. He taught in Athens in a painted porch, a stoa, which is where the philosophy gets its name. Zeno wrote extensively. His student Cleanthes wrote more. Cleanthes was followed by Chrysippus, considered by many ancient sources to be the most important Stoic thinker who ever lived. Chrysippus alone reportedly wrote over 700 works. 700. We have fragments of maybe a few dozen. Everything else is gone. Chrysippus built the logical framework that held Stoic philosophy together. He wrote on ethics, physics, logic, language, emotion, and the nature of the universe. Ancient philosophers who disagreed with Stoicism still acknowledged that without Chrysippus, there would be no Stoicism. And we have almost none of what he actually said. The early Stoics, Zeno, Cleanthes, Chrysippus, are known to us almost entirely through the writing of people who came after them, people who quoted them, argued with them, summarized them, which means we are reading Stoicism through a filter we cannot fully see, and that filter was not neutral. The destruction was not a single event. It happened in layers across centuries. The Library of Alexandria is the famous example. It burned multiple times, under different rulers for different reasons. Stoic texts were among the casualties. But Alexandria is not the whole story. When Rome converted to Christianity in the 4th century, the relationship between the new faith and ancient philosophy became complicated very quickly. Some Stoic ideas were absorbed. The concept of the Logos, the universal brotherhood of humanity, the idea that virtue is the highest good. Early Christian thinkers found enough overlap to make Stoicism partially useful. But other parts of Stoic philosophy were not useful at all. The Stoics believed in a universe governed by rational natural law, not by a personal God who intervened in human affairs. They believed in cycles of destruction and renewal, not a linear history moving toward divine judgment. They believed the soul did not survive the body in any permanent sense. Those ideas did not fit and texts that contained them had a way of disappearing from circulation. Not always through deliberate burning. Sometimes through something quieter, simply not being copied. In the ancient world, a text that was not copied onto fresh material every few generations did not survive. It crumbled. It faded. It ceased to exist. The monks who spent centuries copying manuscripts made choices about what was worth preserving. Those choices were not random. They reflected what was theologically acceptable and what was not. Stoicism survived because enough of it was compatible. The rest did not make the cut. If you are hearing this kind of history for the first time and want more of it, this channel goes deep into exactly this territory every week. Subscribe now and do not miss what comes next. Marcus Aurelius survived because he was an emperor. His private journal, the Meditations, was preserved partly because of who he was, not only what he wrote. Seneca survived because his writing style was admired even by people who disagreed with his philosophy. His letters were elegant. His essays were readable. Medieval scholars kept him because of the prose, even when they questioned the ideas. Epictetus survived because his student Arrian wrote everything down, and because later Christian thinkers found his emphasis on inner discipline and indifference to material things familiar enough. Notice the pattern. What survived had powerful patrons, aesthetic appeal, or enough theological overlap to avoid being threatening. That is not a random sample of Stoic thought. That is a curated selection, which raises the question that sits underneath this entire video. If the surviving texts represent the most palatable version of Stoicism, what did the erased version say that was considered too dangerous to keep? We cannot know for certain. But we can look at the fragments that did survive from the early Stoics and see outlines of ideas that never fully made it through. The early Stoics held positions that the later surviving texts softened considerably. Chrysippus wrote about the equality of all human beings in a way that was radical for his time. Not just philosophically radical, politically radical. The idea that a slave and an emperor had identical moral worth was not a comfortable idea in Rome. The Stoics also wrote extensively about cosmopolitanism, the idea that your loyalty belonged first to humanity as a whole, not to your city, your nation, your emperor. Zeno described his ideal society as one without courts, temples, or currency, a community held together entirely by shared reason and virtue. These are not the ideas that made it into the mainstream Stoicism you read today. What made it through was the personal ethics. Control what you can control. Manage your judgments. Face adversity with dignity. Boss, all of that is real and valuable. But it is the interior version of a philosophy that also had an exterior. A vision of how society itself should be organized. That exterior version largely did not survive, and a philosophy that only teaches you to manage your inner state, without questioning the outer structures that create the conditions you are managing, is a much safer philosophy for those outer structures to allow. Think about that. The next time someone tells you Stoicism is just about controlling your reaction to things, you are practicing an edited philosophy. That does not make it useless. The fragments that survived are extraordinary. Marcus Aurelius alone contains more practical wisdom than most complete philosophical systems. But knowing that what you have is a fragment changes how you hold it. It means Stoicism is not a closed system. It is an open one with missing pieces. And the honest response to that is not to pretend the missing pieces do not exist. It is to keep asking what they contained. It means the Stoic practices you use, journaling, negative visualization, the dichotomy of control, are tools from a larger workshop, most of which no longer exists. And it means the next time someone tells you exactly what the Stoics believed, you can ask them which 5% they are referring to. The Stoics themselves would have appreciated that question. Chrysippus built an entire framework for distinguishing what can be known from what only appears to be known. We do not have most of it, but the instinct it came from: question everything, including the sources. That part survived. And it applies here as much as anywhere. History did not hand you a complete philosophy. It handed you what made it through the fire, the politics, and the decisions of people who are long dead. What you do with that fragment is yours to decide. But the first step is knowing it is a fragment. Most people who call themselves Stoics never learn that. Now you have. This channel exists to fill in the edges of what survived, not to invent what was lost, but to ask the questions that the surviving texts point toward and never fully answer. If that is the kind of thinking you have been looking for, subscribe now. What comes next on this channel will take you somewhere most Stoicism content never goes. Something that was hiding inside the texts that did survive, that almost everyone has been reading past for 2,000 years. You will not want to miss it.